what we do. Clearly, we make music, and my feeling is that the music is to reach all of us, and it's to include all of us. So we're trying to do inclusive music and non-traditional, and we take traditional things and we make them more inclusive and more reflective of the unity spirit and the unity message. So to that end, I write music and do some arranging. Jay does some awesome arranging as well. We also really welcome ideas. Like, so many of you have come to one of us and said, "Hey man, have you heard this song?" Or, I think this would be great. And we actually listen to those ideas and we will use them. So keep that coming. All God's children got a place in the choir. I hope to hear more of you singing, whether from the congregation or go ahead and join the choir if you want, if you feel like singing. It doesn't matter if you're good, it doesn't matter if you read music. It's just, if you feel good singing and want to do that, then please do. You can do that by talking to Jay or myself, or you can show up on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock in the multi-purpose room. And we're also hoping to expand the music program. We're starting to do concerts, including like Ricky Byers, who's coming later this spring. And was like lessons. We had talked a little bit about offering lessons and that sort of thing. So yeah, more music. A question? Thank you. That's an idea that we could look into. We would have to figure out legality, and that would be the main trick. See? And so next up is Mary.
Wow, it sure is different being up here for a change. Where's my stool? I am going to give you a little bit about events. Wasn't it great? This was our first full year back after the pandemic. We had a whole year here. We started coming back with our potlucks. We had a party in the spring. We had our seasonal celebrations with the equinox and solstice. And one other biggie, we reopened the bookstore. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. They're doing great. They have all kinds of things besides books, too. And so we have some ongoing things that will continue next year, such as our Angel Tree Project, our art exhibits, and open mic. But we'll have some more social events coming. Mardi Gras is this week. Have you registered? Do you have your ticket yet? Yes? Okay. It's Friday night. And of course, we wanted to have more potlucks. It was great having our holiday potlucks back this year, right? Holiday for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so that's a biggie for us. I know we all love to eat and, and fellowship around our food. So another thing we're going to work on this year is a community cookbook. So y'all be ready. Be thinking about what kind of recipes you have handed down from your family or something that you've done special that you might want to include in it. Okay. So then, and since I'm on limited time, we're going to switch over to rentals. So most of you probably know that we do rent space here, the sanctuary, fellowship hall, as well as our meeting rooms. So a couple of things we have on ongoing partnerships. I just want to mention really quick, the family church. They are a Hispanic church that meets every Sunday afternoon upstairs in our multipurpose room. So they're here all afternoon. And then a couple of other ongoing things. We have some study groups that are, one is weekly, and another, they're outside of us. They're not part of Unity. They just found us, and so they're renting our conference room. And another group is meeting monthly. So we have a partnership with Spanish for Fun down the street, and they're hosting their events here. So we do have a lot going on as far as having the space being used outside of Sunday. So if you all know, and I'm sure you do, have a know somebody that you want to share us with, so out in the lobby on the welcome desk are some cards that you can take with you and hand out if you, hand out to anybody who you think might want to rent our space. All right. Thanks, everybody. Now, we're back to Newsom.
So I'm also going to speak for BJ. BJ is currently in Mexico. She has a gig down there teaching good things. I've forgotten exactly what it is, but let me tell you quickly about the Youth Ed. The Youth Ed program, pretty much died during the pandemic. With Janice's death, there was, it just dissolved, essentially. So over the 2.5-year period that it was moribund, we lost a lot of momentum. We hired BJ. BJ is a dynamo, and she has done several things I can give you by the numbers. She had 10 YOUers go to Rally, which is a big number. I think it might be the biggest we've ever had. She's got the Uniteens, which is the middle school group, up and running. In the last 3 months, the 4 to 6 year olds have tripled. And we're beginning to get a lot of momentum. They've done 4 fundraisers. They're in the process of doing 2 initiatives, which I think are quite interesting. One is they have the older kids, the YOU, the teenagers and the Uniteens, helping with the younger ones. And they do that as a way of mentoring, but also it helps with just the logistics of everything. They come into the Sunday once in the church once a month, and that is so that when they leave as a graduating high school student, they have some idea what church is about, which has for decades not been the case. Mostly they have stayed by themselves. So she's doing a really good job of integrating the whole program together rather than having classrooms being isolated among themselves. And I think she's building a curriculum. I think it's going very well, and she would love some support. One of the hardest things to get Unity people to do is to step up and say, I'll be out of the sanctuary on Sunday. But they could really use some help. So keep that as we go forward. I want to talk to you about our building briefly. As you may know, we raised about $1.1 million to build this building. We had some money beforehand from the sale of a building in a previous fundraiser. But with that and the money we borrowed, we were able to build this building for about $3.4 million in furnished. That we still owe 1.1 on. It's part of our ongoing expense for this church. It's about an $80,000 a year mortgage and about a $50,000 a year PPO dues. So it takes a lot to raise a village. And we need everybody to help us, which is part of what we'll get to at some point. But this year, our big initiative for the building itself was doing the solar panels. We got $165,000 worth of solar panels for $95,000 because of a $75,000 Duke rebate. We also had a fundraiser for that, so we have bought it down, but it'll take about 9 years for it to pay off. We were hoping to get 100%, We got about a little about half, really, of special contributions for that, which leads me to money. I'm big on money today, apparently, tax collectors, everything, you know, it's like, years ago we had a fundraiser called the 7-Up. 7-Up, meaning we asked each person to donate $7, more than they were donating. So if you were doing nothing, we wanted you to do 7. If you were doing 200 a day, we would want 207. It was just an additional $7. Well, inflation has hit. And so we've moved it to 11. It's also that we're a little bit smaller in attendance. We have about 135 people on average attending church these days. If each person gave according to just being in attendance, $11 more per person, over the 50 weeks of the year that they were doing that, we would raise $70,000, which would essentially make our budget work. So this is a way for you to conceptualize little by little. I checked at Starbucks. It's $4.89 for a latte plus tax. It works out to $11 a week. So consider yourself a little bit healthier and no poorer for helping us out and avoiding Starbucks. Which brings me to the thematic aspect of this year, which is our 11th commandment, which we're coining and broadcasting for the first time live at this moment. The 11th commandment. It was lost somewhere along the way. I don't know how, maybe the tablet broke off at the end. But anyway, the 11th commandment is this, is that you belong. And as a person who belongs, we're inviting you to do a couple of things, one of which is contribute financially, but also to get involved in other ways, to volunteer, to bring your ideas, to bring your heart, to spend time in meditation and prayer, to actually become the person you want to be. When you belong and you show up as your higher self, everything's going to work out. When you belong, you want your tribe to succeed. So one of them is this $11 increase for the next year on whatever contributions you've been making. The second one is one that happens hopefully much later. It's called Your Life, Your Legacy. And we'll be having several ways of introducing this to you. One, a death cafe kind of thing, conversations about wills, including living wills and that sort of thing. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is give you prompters to think about life, your life in its fullness now, but also the legacy you want your life to be for the world. Many of us have, in the last 3 years, gotten 3 years older, and so we're getting that much closer to where we're not going to be talking anymore. And so it will have to be what we have done that is the residue of our life. In so doing, we hope one of the things you'll consider is putting this church in your will. I've done that myself. I think it's one of the most painless ways to give. You won't miss it. So, there'll be more on that, but really this is a fantastic way of making that $1.1 million seem like very little. You know, when you pull it out of your pocket, you know, $1,000 seems like a lot, but when you're dead and gone, $1,000 doesn't seem like much at all, right? Multiply that by what level of prosperity you're experiencing, you could see you could make a very big impact on it. So I'm inviting you to consider that. So, with no more further ado, I want to introduce the board. If y'all will stand, please. So, I'm sure y'all know our board. I'm sorry, just the board. I was not very clear, was I? They work a lot for us, and this is part of the texture of this church that you could miss if you don't get involved. But if you get involved, you will feel that the network which is here working all the time to make it work. So, Janine, would you like to introduce everybody? This is our board president.
Well, I am Janine Nicholson, and down here on the floor we see Mike, Domino, Linda Rosen, Jeff Rohn Thompson, Josette, something, White Lacy, and of course Sterling. And we have been serving on the team together in this configuration for the last year. And of course, it's always that annual cycle of needing to address the next round of people coming onto the board. Sterling will be rolling off this time, and we're going to need a wonderful replacement for her. And I'm officially rolling off, so we have to make sure that we have somebody to fill my role. So anyway, I'm so happy to be serving with this team, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Okay, now here's my big thank you, is to our ministers and staff. Your commitment to excellence allows us to have an uplifting and inspiring experience every Sunday. We appreciate you so much. Until I got on the board, I didn't have a full appreciation for how much work is involved in just making sure that this happens smoothly and with class. Thank you. So next, we did a little survey of people that consistently come and participate. It's like, okay, if you're here, why? What keeps you coming back? And so what we found in that survey was that Newsom's messages are the primary reason that people stay here. We also attend, yes, even after 2,000 practice sessions, it's always an inspiration every Sunday. We also attend because of you, our warm and loving community where everyone is welcome and we are free to believe whatever our heart leads us. I don't find that just any old place. It's here in this community. And we also have a high rating here for our music program. We enjoy being, yes indeed, we enjoy being inspired and energized by our fantastic music program. It is something that gets us out of our seats, out of our doldrums. We are rocking. We feel better when we leave here. Isn't it a wonderful thing? We so appreciate it. So there's more. As we see, we are a spiritual community awakening to our divine nature through love and service and personal transformation. That's our purpose. Okay. So something else, the board represents all of us. And so our focus is on serving this Unity family in growing spiritually and feeling that we belong in this community together. We have so many opportunities to participate and get to know one another by taking classes and studying in small groups. And volunteering gives us a chance to engage with others and give back to this community. It has been wonderful to see how our higher shelf bookstore out the back door there has been revitalized by a dedicated group of people, and you need to go in there and find stuff. It's like a very cool gift boutique now. Thank you for doing that, team. Another thing that's a real big deal, so back in the day when we created this structure, it was a lot of work by many of you that are still here to come up with a plan for how to make this the most energy efficient building we could. And one of the things that was talked about at the time but didn't fit in our budget was being more green than we are. I mean, it's very efficient, but we wanted to have solar panels all along. And through our beloved Dan Wilkinson, who was on the board, yay, he's here somewhere. Yes, there he is. Who was on the board at the time, he did a lot of work to get this going so that we could have it in place by September. The system, you can see there's a lot of detail about it. It was an amazing collaborative partnership with Duke Energy that gave us a huge rebate, and we ended up with a lot of donations from you that helped offset some of the expense. And so we, at this point, are looking at that we have about $10,000 a year in energy savings. You think your electric bill is high? Ours was a doozy. So this is allowing us to basically break even on, we produce our own electricity, and anything in excess goes into the Duke Power grid and comes back to us at night if we need it. We end up, also very important to me, offsetting our greenhouse gas emissions because we're not contributing to that. It is a really great thing. So we're looking at our payback period for this big investment where we will break even completely from all that savings at somewhere between here and 9 years, depending, since we haven't had it a full year yet, we don't know exactly how much the savings is going to be. But we have significantly reduced this building's carbon footprint, and that's a credit to all of us. Yes. So next up, we want to share with you about the leadership selection ministry, and that is Josette.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think what I want to say first and foremost is I consider it an honor and 80% of the time a real pleasure to serve on the board. The 20% is when Newsom tells a not so great joke and or there are no snacks. But other than that, it is a wonderful way. It makes me feel more like I belong to this community. So I hope you will think about that as you go through your process of discernment. As the vice chair of the board, I also have the wonderful opportunity to actually see the sausage being made in terms of creating the next members of the board with the help of our leadership selection ministry. Everything we do is governed by our unity bylaws, and so by those bylaws, over the last 2 weeks, you have voted for this year's team of the I keep doing that. I can't help it. Leadership Selection Committee, and 4 or 5 of them are here today, and I'd like them to stand. Holly Bear, David Johnson back there in the back, give it up for David. Kevin Strike, and Dan Wilkinson, who just couldn't stand not being on the board, so he said he'd sign up again. And our other member is Tammy Johns, and Tammy could not be with us this morning. So I just want to thank them for agreeing to serve in this role. Over the next several months, because we have to have our person in place, our new board members have to be in place by April, I think is the right date. But over the next few weeks, we will be reviewing individuals who are interested in serving on the board and in other leadership positions, because what we realize is that we need to build a pipeline for people who are interested in serving on the board and helping them learn how to lead in that capacity. And the beautiful thing about this community is there are so many opportunities to be a part of at a leadership level, small or large, today, tomorrow, and into the future, and we want to begin to build that pipeline. So if you think, as you go through your process of discernment, that leadership is in your present or future at this church, we welcome you to join us for 2 sessions, one next Sunday, February 5th, and the second one, February the 12th, where members of the leadership selection ministry, as well as members of the board, will be present to talk about what it means to serve on the board of Unity of the Triangle. Now, I had a clever list of the top 10 reasons why you should consider being on the board, but it really all boils down to something very, very simple for me, and that's the belonging aspect. The more you know about this body, about this group, about this community of spirits, beautiful spirits, the more you feel like you're connected. And that has gone a long way towards keeping my daytime work much more fulfilling knowing that I've got a spiritual community that's backing me up and supporting me as I go through this journey. So I really encourage you to think about ways that you can belong, ways that serving on the board or some other opportunity. Please join us next week, and we'll have more details. There are limited requirements for being on the board. Number one, you have to be an adult member. Doesn't mean you have to act like an adult all the time, although we like it, but you do have to be an adult member of the church. You have to abide by unity principles and understand them and be willing to share them with our fellow congregants. And there's another whole long list in the bylaws, but I figured if I gave that to you, you'd just say no. So please join us next week. We're going to try to meet in the green room immediately following service so we don't get in the way of Sandy's program at 1 o'clock, and we will be finished in time for you to attend Sandy's. So thank you all. I appreciate you for thinking about the board.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about a part of our belonging theme for the year, your life, your legacy. And as you can see up there, Maya Angelou, who certainly left quite a legacy, had something to say about it. If you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that cannot be erased. Well, that's what we're talking about. We've all had a life. We want to make sure it has made a difference. So going forward, we are really looking at this reality. Newsom kind of gave away the secret, but, you know, we all know our earthly journey is going to end one day. But are you ready? You know, do you have all your affairs in order? There's a lot. We found that the COVID pandemic brought our anxiety about dying to the surface, to the point where even in this loving community, we became afraid that someone was going to breathe on us and we would die. I mean, that's a lot to get over. So we're going to provide workshops and classes this year to help you live for today and plan for tomorrow. I'm especially looking forward to taking part in the wisdom circles as we welcome and embrace the process of conscious aging and become the wise elders we were always meant to be. So you'll see some of the things listed up there. We're going to support you in how you can get your affairs in order. We'll do the 5 wishes of end-of-life planning. We're even going to have a death cafe. I know you don't want to miss that. I attended one. I attended one this past week, and I assure you nobody died. But it was really eye-opening. And we've been gathering guest experts to help us with just the logistics of finishing things up to get to the point where we're happy with the outcome. So we're grateful for that opportunity. The other side of Live for Today and Plan for Tomorrow is something that our resident attorney is going to be able to talk about.
So I will be the first one to admit that I have not taken decedent's estate since 1979. That's when I got out of law school. So I got some other experts to help me out. So I'd like to acknowledge Brandon Hudson, who used to be a member of this community but is now in Southern Virginia, but is coming back to help us sort through the vagaries of wills and trust and estate planning. Chuck Moody, who's a member of our congregation, is also helping kind of sort through some of this stuff with me. And also Bill Holt. So on February 19th, I got dyslexia about that. On February 19th, we will kick off a kind of like, call it Wills 101, for lack of a better word, to kind of explain what's involved in writing a will. We have acquired a software platform called freewill.com, which is an online platform where people can go on and create their will. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes to complete it. Now, that's your simple will. And many of us will be writing a simple will, but for those of us who have lots and lots and lots and lots of money and assets that they want to distribute, there are more, that is why our other lawyers will be with us that day to help us through the more complicated issues around writing a will. I did go on the platform to see what it was like, and it does meet all the legal requirements. We spoke with the company that runs it. It meets all the legal requirements of all 50 states. I did check North Carolina just to be on the safe side. Not that I didn't trust them, but, you know, I have to do that. And they are legal, and you can sign them. It tells you how to get your witnesses and all that. But what we really want to do is to let you know that there are people in this community, in this congregation, who are here to help you, who can help you sort through, do you need a financial planner? Or if you're just doing your will online and you want to get a consultation from one of them to say, does this sound about right? Because we want this to be easy for you and the platform, to use the platform. It is free. It's something that the church is doing to help you kind of come to living for today and planning for tomorrow. So thank you, and we'll have more. Oh, is there a question? Yes.
I do. It's funny because Supervisor and the Spanish ministry have been talking about this for some time.
Okay, perfect.
I know you guys are talking about it or planning it, but would it be possible for y'all to have interpretation, like little headphones and somebody interpret?
We can try to do that. Yes, we can try to do that.
I've been working on it with somebody and I thought, oh my God, it's like, this is exactly what we want to do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Norma.
Talk about interpretation.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. It's a very good idea. We also had someone, because many of us are losing our hearing. I just discovered the other day when I was trying to listen to something on my headphone, I was getting nothing in my right ear, and I thought it was the headphone. It was not the headphone. I can't hear out of my right ear. So I need more amplification. So thank you so much for that. Look for more announcements about the February 19th Legacy Committee meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So yay. Josette and I have put in a lot of time, along with some staff, to try to make sure that this was something that's going to work for us. So there's two things that have to happen, according to the bylaws, at this meeting in January. We have to announce the leadership selection ministry that you voted for, and then we have to announce and share with you the operating budget that we have planned for 2023, something the board spends a lot of time working on, and our finance committee, that is an arm of the board, works a lot on. So we're going to have now our treasurer, who is going to tell us about the operating budget. And at the end, we get to vote.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Fron Thompson. I've served on the board as treasurer for the past 2 years. I want to take a few minutes to tell you about some of the financial highlights from last year and go over the budget for 2023. Well, can everybody see that? Well, I will talk to it then, and hope my numbers are the same as that. This past year, total revenue was $494,000, about $128,000 lower than the budget of $622,000. Some of the difference may be due to worldwide financial uncertainty, the end of the CARES Act, and lower in-person attendance since COVID-19. We are seeing some improvement in attendance, though, and attendance over the past few months has gone up. Our average is steadily increasing, and we actually had 155 attend a couple of weeks ago. Expenses were managed at a lower level, $504,000 versus $576 budgeted, primarily due to our not replacing staff members, Reverend Anna Quintana and Dollar Brown. Most notably, because we will see it over and over again in the next coming years, we saw a $5,000 decrease in utilities as we reap benefits from the solar panels that were installed in 2022. Now that was for a partial year, so we expect to see more this year. So overall, with both revenue and expenses decreasing, we ended up with net income of a negative $10,000 for the year, and a negative $48,000 after we paid mortgage principal. That's managing expenses pretty well, given revenue did not end up exactly where we would like it to. But that $48,000 had to come from somewhere, and we are fortunate that we had savings to cover it. Are there any questions about the 2022? Okay. Next on the agenda is the 2023 budget. We're budgeting total revenue of $593,000. This reflects a projected increase over 2022 revenue of about $100,000. Now, you're probably wondering, where is that $100,000 coming from? Well, as Newsom talked about, the 11th Amendment program, which we're projecting to bring in about $60,000. And the remainder is projected to come from a continued growth in-person attendance. Budgeted expenses are expected to be about $534,000. Our personnel costs are somewhat lower than 2022 at $280,000 versus $288,000. And there is $28,000 increase in technology costs to improve our online presence and broadcasting of services. Overall, we are expected to break even after meeting our mortgage principal payments of $39,000. Are there any questions? Yes.
Projected revenue of what we're going to bring in from the rentals, I think this goes for the writings and the meetings.
Are you asking, does it include it? Yes, it does. It's included in the total revenue of $593,000. Well, we didn't break it down in the budget.
But it's part of the,
Yes, yes.
is this online or somewhere so we could reference it? Can we get a copy of it, number, anywhere, anytime?
No, it's not online, but we'd be glad to share it with you if you'd like to know more about it. Yes.
I'm just curious as to why personnel is budgeted for less, since that rarely happens.
Well, in 2022, we had Reverend Anna and Dala included in there. Yes. Are there any other questions? No? Well, I move to, yes.
Okay, we just have 2 people on staff and we still are in the red. So, and then where is the savings budget? I guess that's how we made up the difference. Do you have an investment portfolio that you share with us?
An investment portfolio?
Well, yeah.
What do you mean?
The savings and the...
Oh, yes. We can share that with you at a later date, but we don't have it as part of the presentation today. I move to approve the budget as shown. Can I get a second? Okay. It has been moved and seconded. Can I get a vote?
All in favor?
It is approved. Thank you very much.
Well, folks, I have notes, which is really a distraction for me. Let me just say what's in my heart. I have always loved this place. I must admit, it's been easy to love this community because y'all have always been nice to me. Which is kind of rare for someone who's been here as long as I have to have so many nice years back to back. But I really appreciate the way you've been with me. And I really appreciate that when so many visitors come in this place, they say, this is the most welcoming place I've been in a long time. So you're making the case that this is a spiritual community. And because of that, I think we have something here that is rare enough that we really need to support it. And so your volunteering and your giving and all the things you have done to bring it to this point is incredibly valuable. And it is a rare gem in churches as I know them. I basically only know Unity churches, and you would think Unity churches of all places would be such a lovely place to be. They're not. Those of you who've been other places know sometimes they're not at all. And this is a gem. And it is because of the people here and the way that we have all pitched in to be a community and not just a bunch of individuals going to church and then going home. So if there's anything I can do to encourage you to continue what you're doing, know that just making me happy is enough. No, really, truly, you're making the world a better place. And so I want to thank you for everything you have done to bring us to this point. And we have, of all the Unity churches I've ever been in, this is the sweetest design and most functional one of any of them I've ever been in. There's a lot going on here that's working. So let's build on that. Let's remember that the way to make the church better is to invest in it with your time, talent, and treasure. And when you do, you feel that which you have always been invited to do, which is belong. So thank you for being here, and thank you for staying through this presentation. It's something we have to do every year, but it's always a great reminder that it takes a lot of sausage to feed an army. So thank you for being here. Say what?